Hi guys, it's me Chazza HD and welcome today to the official start of pre-season testing. Of course, the Barcelona, what we would normally call a pre-season test, was officially a shakedown. So today, according to Formula One, stupidly, this is the first day of pre-season testing and we are now in the final 2 hours of testing today. And I'll be taking you through the final 2 hours and any updates to the lap times you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, and any interesting times that are set on the softer compounds in the more representative conditions. We'll see, hopefully, the next couple hours, something like that. Hopefully, you guys are doing well. Hopefully, you're going to be watching along with me this final couple hours of testing. If not, if you're busy at work or anything like that, then just make sure to listen along, as I will take you thoroughly through the final couple hours here of day one of pre-season testing in Bahrain, as it does begin to get dark at the circuit. Couple things to just quickly say. One, again, great, to have you guys here. Secondly, I do have a new graphic, as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, which is now the new running order graphic. So obviously I've got, a couple columns there for position, driver, and then now I've got the lap times on the far right column. Now, just want to say, before we properly get into the action in testing today, or in this, certain day of testing, or this certain part of the day of testing rather, when it comes to the lap times, basically what is going to happen is I will, when there is a position change and someone goes quicker, I will firstly update the driver position like I used to do last time, which is obviously clicking it and it moving up to its correct position. But when it comes to the lap times, I have to manually enter them in terms of the gap, obviously, behind Charles Leclerc, who does have, so far today, the fastest time of day one and of the second or the first, I guess you could say, officially pre-season test. So do bear with me when it comes to getting all the gaps right for every single driver. I will, again, make sure to do it as quickly as possible, but it isn't going to be as, say, automated as it is me updating the driver position. So, again, I'll try and do it as quickly as I can, but don't expect it to be absolutely lightning quick. And actually, we do have a position change with Lando Norris, and we're about to, I think, with Carlos Sainz, who is on the timing screen on the actual TV broadcast, is down in P10, and he's on the C2 compound of tyre, is Carlos Sainz, but I think he is about to go quite a bit faster. And by the way, Charles Leclerc did his quickest time on the C3, and Carlos Sainz goes up to P6 on a 1:36.0. So let me just update the order quickly. So we've got Carlos Sainz up into 6th place, and then Lando Norris is up to 8th in the McLaren. So let me just update some of the gaps quickly. And yeah, let me just quickly do that. So Carlos Sainz, 1.5 seconds off the pace of Charles Leclerc. I am expecting, given that the conditions are a bit better, I think, for quicker running now, rather than being in that extreme heat, I am expecting some quicker times in the final couple hours of day one here, as Lando Norris is 1.8 seconds off the pace at the moment, as Valtteri Bottas, I think, is about to go quite a bit quicker, as Russell is currently in P10, 2 seconds down, and then got Ocon in P11 as Valtteri Bottas goes up to 3rd place in the Alfa Romeo. I'll update that in just a moment. And then you've got Lance Stroll in 13th place, and then I think let me just make sure I've got it right. Actually, it's slightly incorrect. Let me just Correct it. There you go. The bottom bit of the order. And I'll quickly update that, yeah, Valtteri Bottas, who is doing some good running at the moment in the Alfa Romeo car, looking a lot better than it was in the morning session. And they're doing a lot more running than they were doing, certainly in Barcelona, and that they were doing earlier this morning. Bottas now within a second of Charles Leclerc's best lap time. That pushes, of course, Sebastian Vettel down. And the rest, let me just get this all right. And I think, is that correct? No, not quite. And yeah, Carlos Sainz 1.5 seconds down. And the rest, I think, is as it as it is. So now that we're a few minutes into this stream, let me just read off at the minute before any more lap times are set, or new lap times are set that improve or change around the order. Let me get into what the order is at the moment with 1 hour and 54 minutes to go on day one. So Charles Leclerc is quickest. He's not in the car right now, in the Ferrari car right now. Carlos Sainz is in the Ferrari car, so of course Leclerc is not going to go any quicker. His best time is a 1:34.5. Albon is second, half a second off. And then Bottas, like I said, just gone third. He's about a second off the pace. And then you got Vettel in fourth, Gasly fifth, Perez sixth, Sainz seventh, Norris eighth, Hamilton ninth, Russell 10th. And then the rest of the order, Ocon, Guan Yu Zhou in P12, Stroll 13th, Alonso 14th, and Pietro Fittipaldi in 15th. And the rest of the drivers not driving today for whatever reason. And that being Verstappen, Tsunoda, Ricciardo, Schumacher, and Latifi. As I look back at the screen, and we're currently looking at an Aston Martin, and it is Lance Stroll who is in the car for the afternoon session, when it was Sebastian Vettel in the morning. I have to say Aston Martin have not had a good day. The car in the morning really didn't look that good. There was even, I think, a clip I seen on Twitter. By the way, again, I've created a new Twitter account, so make sure to go follow me on Twitter at ChazHD5. But I did see a clip of Sebastian Vettel understeering at the, I think, turn 9 hairpin, and his car honestly looked like a supermarket trolley in that corner. And I mean, a lot of the cars earlier in the extreme heat looked not that great, and they're going to look grip-wise better in the I think cooler and just better conditions for the cars. But really, the Aston Martin earlier was not looking good at all. Hopefully, we'll see some better things from Aston Martin in the final couple hours here. And yeah, hopefully from Lance Stroll, we'll see an improvement in lap time, as he is 3.3 seconds off the front running pace, as he is now, I think, on a warm-up lap, possibly, and he's just on the back straight, or the final DRS zone is in between turn 10 and 11. But yeah, interesting day so far. We've had a bit of controversy when it comes to Red Bull Mercedes. Imagine my shock, Red Bull Mercedes in a bit of controversy with each other. We'll probably get onto that more so in my review of day one, which I'm going to be doing live later tonight at 7 PM UK time, which, like I said last night, make sure to come along to that if you want to catch the best bits and what has gone down fully today on day one. And we'll definitely get more in depth into that whole situation and the Mercedes side pods and all of that. But yeah, we've had that. To be honest, I mean, we've had a couple teams having issues. McLaren have had brake issues and have not really done that many laps. I think they've only done 35, 40 laps for the entire day so far. So yeah, it's not really been that good of a day for McLaren. And a couple of other teams have had some issues, but nothing major. But other than that, we've not really seen the teams really pushing these cars. I mean, in Barcelona, they were a lot closer to, say, the 2021 lap times around that circuit, when so far, around this Sakhir International Circuit, they haven't been anywhere near what the best times would be around this track in a 2021 car. They're about 4 to 5 seconds away, at least, compared to those cars, as Lance Stroll locks up heavily into, I think that was turn 10, very big lockup, and we'll get more so in a moment into what the cars look like in terms of how they're handling on track compared to last year. But yeah, in terms of lap times, they're not really anywhere near the 2021 cars at the moment, as Lance Stroll is currently on a lap which I think might see him improve. Will be touch and go. He's not improved his middle sector, which is not a surprise, because he made that lockup at, I think, turn 10, a very tricky left-hander where you're turning and braking at the same time. And Stroll, let's see what lap time he does as he comes to the line. And no, he doesn't go any quicker. He basically sets the same time that he did earlier on, which of course is his personal best of a 1:37.8 for Lance Stroll. But yeah, when it comes to the new cars, I mean, of course, in Barcelona, we heard of certain issues when it came to, I can't even pronounce it, porpoising? Is that how you pronounce it? Where the car's bouncing up and down uncontrollably down the straight. We have seen a couple teams suffer with that. I think Aston Martin being one of them, also Mercedes. I've had that quite a bit so far today. Ferrari, I've seen them quite a bit today, and they don't seem to have that issue anywhere near as much at the moment. But with these new cars, you can definitely tell they're harder to drive. They're a lot more sensitive to drive. I think the 2021 cars were not that hard compared to these cars to really get them up to, or get them set up, correctly for what you would want for, say, a qualifying session or anything like that. With these cars, they seem a lot more trickier to get right and a lot more aerocentric than last year. And also, another thing, you can definitely tell that these cars are definitely heavier than last year's cars, which of course they factually are, but what I'm saying is you can tell visually by looking at the cars that they are heavier than last year. And yeah, I'd say at the moment there's still not really, we don't really have a great idea, say, of where everyone is. I mean, I still think Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull are the top 4 teams. Whether they are all part of a front-running gang, let's say, we'll have to see in the next couple of days of testing, and possibly in the final hour and 45 here. And I still think you've got, Aston Martin, AlphaTauri, Alpine, maybe Williams in the midfield with Alfa Romeo and Haas as maybe back markers. Maybe we'll see some differences to that. In the final couple days of testing here, but we haven't really seen anything so far that could really change my mind on that. Hopefully, like I said, though, with the conditions probably a bit better for the cars now, hopefully we'll see some improved times and more representative running in the final, like I said, hour and 45 minutes. Another thing, though, about, representative lap times and figuring out, who's running as close to full pace. It's quite a bit harder this year because we don't know how much slower the new cars are compared to last year's cars. I think last year's cars at the moment are definitely quicker than this year's cars, but it's hard to say, what the pace difference is. It really is hard to say. I think Barcelona, we were surprised how close they were, and it's hard to say exactly where they would have been in comparison to the 2021 cars around the Barcelona track, but they were actually only like a second away, and they definitely weren't pushing as hard as possible in that shakedown a week or so ago. But like I said, at the moment, they're about 4 or 5 seconds away from the, say, peak lap times you would be doing around this track if it was, last year. So even though Leclerc's quickest, I still feel as though everybody can go a lot quicker than they actually are. And at least, I am at least hoping they can, because it will give us a better idea then of how close these teams are to the limit, as Carlos Sainz is doing, by the looks of it, a race run at the moment. By the way, if you are in chat, make sure to put some comments in the chat if you want to ask me anything when it comes to anything going on or anything general. Then make sure to post comments in chat. By the way, again, reminder, I'll be live later tonight at 7 p.m. UK time to review day 1. And then tomorrow on day 2, I will be going live at the same time, 2 p.m. UK time, for the final 2 hours of day 2. And then live again at 7 p.m. UK time tomorrow night to review day 2. So make sure, if you are new to the channel, to subscribe and hit the notifications bell for that content coming up. Well, smash the like button, share this video and channel everywhere you can. And make sure as well, again, to follow me on my Twitter account at ChazHD5 to keep up to date with my videos and streams. As I'll turn, I think, my phone off, because it does make quite a bit of noise. I don't know if you guys heard that going off just then. If you did, sorry, but yeah. Mercedes, George Russell, back in the pits at the moment, as the darkness begins to descend on the Bahrain track. By the way, reminder that they are, compared to UK time, they're 3 hours ahead of us in Bahrain. And the sunset time, I think, in Bahrain is 5:45 local time. So they're only, half an hour away from sunset. So in about an hour from now, it'll pretty much be dark, and probably the most reminiscent of the conditions we're going to get next weekend for the, of course, the official Bahrain Grand Prix, the first race of the season, as Ferrari now doing a practice pit stop for Carlos Sainz, as also Alex Albon is out on track now on a set of C3 tyres. Albon in P2. I should have probably mentioned this earlier, but Charles Leclerc, he is quickest on 1:34.5. That time was done on the C3 tyre. Albon's time, which is half a second away from Charles Leclerc, was done on the C4. So that's another half a second, I would say, in Ferrari's pocket over Williams, given whatever fuel loads and engine modes they were running when both laps were done. So yeah, Ferrari still looking good, I would say, at the moment, but it's still pretty hard to say officially, or as near to official as you can, where they really are. But I will say with Williams, I think Williams are definitely better than last season. I'm not sure where they are in the midfield, but I think they are a midfield team. I think most likely at the moment, if I was going to be safe, I'd probably say they are towards the rear of the midfield, so a team that would be kind of getting knocked out in Q2 if they deliver that type of pace next weekend in the Bahrain Grand Prix. So, yeah, not looking too bad for Williams at the moment. They look as though they've made a gentle step ahead. They're about 2 or 3 tenths of a second to me further up the field than they were, say, at the end of last season, which would be a decent step forward. And when you consider that Williams will have so much more time in the wind tunnel to develop their car compared to the top teams, Williams could, even like Alfa Romeo and Haas, could end the year not too bad at all, as Albon continues on what it looks to be a race run, as Albon, and I think the only other car on track right now is Lance Stroll. Just quickly mute my microphone just quickly. Just had to get something out of my mouth there. It looks as though Sergio Perez is about to come back out onto circuit. I think they're just fiddling around with stuff in his cockpit. And then he should be back out on track. Max Verstappen will be in the car tomorrow, I'm pretty sure. And then, most likely, like they did in Barcelona, on the final day, I think Verstappen and Perez will split the final day. Maybe with Verstappen doing the most representative part of the day, which would be the afternoon, as Stroll comes back into the pits, and now we see Pietro Fittipaldi on our screen. Haas, for their livery, have added a bit more red to their car. Of course, if you guys didn't know, Kevin Magnussen is now back in Formula 1, and he will be racing for Haas F1 this season. Don't know yet exactly what the plan is around testing in terms of like what running Magnussen is going to do. Haas F1 actually have asked, I think, the FIA if they, because they missed the first half of today, I think according to Talk in the Paddock, they're asking for an extra half a day or even full day of testing because they missed first half of day one, which I'm not sure if it goes down to a team vote, that type of decision. I'm not sure that will actually happen for them. To be honest, though, I think it would be only fair because I don't think the issue behind them not getting to testing quick enough, I don't think it was really their fault. So it would be fair to give them, say, half a day more testing, as Fittipaldi is on the prototype compound, which I believe is a C2 compound, and it looks as though he is on a better lap, as Ferrari currently working on the underneath of Carlos Sainz's car. And yeah, Pietro coming into the second half of his lap now. The Haas car looking okay, really. I know people have kind of speculated that Haas might actually be, say, kind of in the midfield this year, given the amount of development they've, or that has gone into this car. But I don't think right now we can really say categorically, that they have made that step forward. We haven't really seen anything from them that would suggest that. As Fittipaldi now rounds the final corner, we'll see what lap time he does. He'll probably stay in last place. And he comes to the line. And nope, actually goes up to 14. So Pietro Fittipaldi up to P14. And I'll just update the gap that he is behind Leclerc. And I think this is right. If it's not, then I will correct it. So him and Alonso about 4.5 to 5 seconds off the pace at the moment. As we're just seeing a replay of Alex Albon at turn 10, locking the inside front and going wide on the C3 compound tyre. But yeah, quite a bit of work going on Carlos Sainz's car at the moment. Yeah, cheers, Nib, for that. What's it like having your football team in the mud? Let's not talk about that. He also says Ferrari look comfortably first or second fastest at the moment. Depends on Merc. Right, I think I'm back. Can you guys let me know in the chat whether I am actually officially back live? I had a slight disconnection then, only for a few seconds. But I was actually going to read Nib's comment saying Haas have been denied that because 3 teams disagree with it. It's probably the teams they're most likely to race in 2022. Yeah, if anyone is watching, let me know if I am still live. I think I am, but I'm not 100% sure. As we're looking again at Fittipaldi, as Gasly, I've just noticed, is actually up to 4th place. Let me update that. AlphaTauri looking decent so far. Nothing really spectacular, I'm going to be honest. They haven't really pushed that hard, have of AlphaTauri. They were very conservative in this morning's session, probably the most conservative team out of them all, if I'm being honest. And that drops Sebastian Vettel down to 5th. And is there any other differences? I don't think there are, no. But we do now have 3 other cars within a second of Leclerc's time. And I think we are starting to see that people are now, again, in better conditions for the cars and for the tyres. They're now starting to get closer to Leclerc's lap time, as Fittipaldi is coming to the end of his lap now, coming into the final corner. A corner where you're always drifting to the left-hand side and getting blown across the track. And didn't really push that hard in that corner, did Pietro. Comes to the line and doesn't really, well, he doesn't set a better lap time. Don't actually know what the time was on that occasion. Right, good to see that I'm still going. As we got the Mercedes of Russell and the Red Bull of Sergio Perez now coming out onto circuit. So hopefully we'll see some improved lap times from these two especially, because, I mean, I think we know so far with Ferrari, we know they are looking certainly good out of the blocks, but we want to see, in comparison, the Red Bull and Mercedes, how they look on, you know, let's say the same tyre with similar-ish fuel loads as Perez and Russell on their outlaps now. And then Albon and Gasly still on track. I think Gasly's on a not really a long run, but kind of like a mid-long run, if you know what I mean. He's got a bit of fuel on board, but not an absolute ton. Probably nowhere near as much as Fittipaldi and Albon. Hopefully, though, we'll see some quicker times from Perez and Russell. Perez is on the C2 compound, so maybe not. Russell, I think, is on the C3 compound, as Perez warms up his tyres and comes through the fast right-hander of turn 12, I think that is. And he's actually coming right up to the back of Russell now, who's just backing off a bit in the Mercedes before he before he lets it go. And yeah, Russell is on the C3 medium compound tyre, which of course Leclerc was earlier on when he did his time. So we'll see with Russell, as Russell now opens the DRS. We'll see what Russell does as he porpoises down to turn 1. Gets through turn 1 easy enough. And the car looks smooth enough through turn 1, 2, and 3. Opens the DRS again. Up to turn 4. No real issues I can see at the moment. Slight oversteer on the exit of turn 4, but that's to be expected. And decently through that little chicane, now into the hairpin. Turn 9. And yeah, looking pretty decent, I would say, so far is Russell on this lap. Into turn 10. Oh, bit of understeer. Yeah, he had a bit of understeer, then I think probably locked up. We couldn't actually see the tyre with that camera angle, so hard to say whether he actually did lock up. But you could see the understeer really coming as soon as he slowed down for the corner, and he will now back off on this lap and try again in a moment. But Mercedes are not having it all, you know, plain sailing, despite this new interesting, unique upgrade that they've brought to the second test. The car is porpoising quite a bit down the pit straight, which, I mean, it's an issue, and it's not something they would want, and if you look at, say, Ferrari and Red Bull, it's not happening as much for them. But I wouldn't say at the moment it's a big, big concern, because I think, and it's already pretty much been said by all of the teams, that they're going to get on top of it, and they'll probably be on top of it in 2 or 3 races' time. So, and yeah, Russell did actually lock his inside front going into turn 10. That's why he went wide. So yeah, at the moment, that's not great, but I don't think it really is going to be an issue. I mean, if they've still got it when we get to Spain, Monaco, which is end of May, they've still got it dramatically then yeah, that will be a bit concerning, but I don't think they'll really have that a problem. As now, Sergio Perez looks as though he is on a quicker lap on the C2 compound of tyre. Interesting to note when it comes to tyres, next weekend, Pirelli are bringing the 3 hardest compounds, the C1, C2 and C3. So we're probably going to have a one-stop race, I think, next weekend. I can't remember what the compound choice was for Saudi. Maybe it was C4, C3, C2. I know for Melbourne, it was, I think, C2, C3 and the C5 compound for the teams to select from for that weekend. So that'll be interesting to see what choices are made in Melbourne. Reminder as well, with the new 2022 rules, not just are the cars changing, but there are also some procedural rules, I guess you could say, that are different. So, of course, as Russell, by the way, does an improved lap time and goes up to 7th place, I'll update that in just a moment. In 2022, the rule that your best, if you get into the top 10, the tyre you qualify into the top 10 on in Q2 is the tyre you start on, that rule is no more. So the teams won't have to worry in qualifying about having to qualify, say, the front-running teams. They won't have to worry about qualifying on a different tyre in Q2 because they'll be able to select whatever tyre they want, I think, for the race anyway. So I could see why people might be a bit disappointed about that, but to be honest, I think you'll still get differences when it comes to tyre choice, even if they won't be, say, the top teams won't be making those differences in Q2 like they used to, where they would qualify on the harder compound and the rest would be on the softer. As Russell, like I said, is up to 7th place, and he is 1.4 seconds off the 1.5 seconds actually off the pace is Russell as he progressively gets quicker on that compound. And I'll just update Norris and Hamilton. I think I've got it right. Yes, I have. As we have just under an hour and a half to go of testing. Not testing, but of day 1 of pre-season testing. To answer Ziad, Fittipaldi is driving for Haas. Greetings to everyone in chat, by the way. Mika says, the Q2 rule was stupid. Happy to see it gone. I didn't like the Q2 rule, to be honest. I would, if they're going to do a rule like that, I would have preferred if they had kept the one they had back in the early 2010s, where if you, in Q3, if you wanted to start on the harder compound tyre, you could, but you'd have to qualify on the harder tyre, meaning you would have to then be slower, of course, in Q3, and of course that would decide your starting position. I think if they were going to do any kind of rule like that, they should have kept that. But to be honest, like I said, I think you're still going to get differences when it comes to what tyres people run. If I was going to compare it to anything, I would compare it to the refueling days, where what we had at the end of the refueling days was the teams, well, the top 10 drivers, whoever they were, When they qualified into the top 10 in Q3, they would then do their times in Q3 on the fuel load they were going to start the race with, pretty much. And even before then, before we had the Q1, Q2, Q3 system, we had the single lap 1x1 qualifying, where that's what they would do. They would qualify all of the drivers, their cars on the fuel load that they were going to start the race with, which I would say is similar-ish to that, Q2 tyre roll or the Q3 tyre roll. But before that, with refueling, they would have a normal qualifying session, run as skinny as possible, and then for the race, they would all decide on what fuel they were going to run for the race. And it would always be different. It wouldn't always be the same. They would all or most of the teams would have the similar amounts of fuel in their car, but there would be some differences from time to time. And I think that's what you'll see this year, is most of the teams will start on the same tyre, but you'll get some differences based on what certain teams need to start on if they need to get into a certain position to make their race work. For example, in Monaco, if someone qualifies on pole, decides to start on the medium, tyre, whatever the medium tyre is that weekend, if the man in second place, desperately needs to get into second place into first place rather, for whatever reason, he will then, try and start the soft. I think you'll see stuff like that in 2022. But yeah, I still think when it comes to tyres, I still think it'll be interesting. Maybe not as interesting as it was, but still interesting this season as we continue to watch Mr. Saturday on a Thursday on track in Bahrain in the Silver Arrows. And I think he's just doing some laps to get a good handle of the car. As we've got Lance Stroll on an outlap at the moment in the Aston Martin. And yeah, Mercedes car at the moment looking okay. But again, hard to say exactly or most likely where they are at the moment compared to, say, Ferrari, Red Bull and McLaren. I think with McLaren, it's very hard to say where they are at the moment because they've not really done that much running today. There are big brake problems earlier in the day. And up until only 3 hours to go in testing for this day, they only did, I think, 30 laps. And I think overall they've only done about 40, 45 laps. Maybe not even that. So with McLaren, very hard to say what their performance is like at the moment in Bahrain. But overall, still pretty hard, I would say, as Russell continues on his way. I think, going back to that though, I think we can definitely say Ferrari are looking better than last season by a bit. But again, it's hard to say whether they have the quickest car. I'm not going to go out on the limb and say that quite yet. I mean, I thought coming out of Barcelona, I said that I thought Ferrari coming out of Barcelona, given the specification of the cars and what upgrades were on the car at that point, I thought Ferrari were the best coming out of that test or shakedown, whatever you want to call it. But with the upgrades that we're going to be seeing from Mercedes and Red Bull over the next couple of days, especially from Red Bull, who came out and said, I think yesterday or the day before, that they were going to add their upgrades progressively to the car as the test went on. Again, we'll have to see whether Ferrari's position as maybe title contenders does change, as Lance Stroll has shot up the order and has gone up to 6th place in the Aston Martin as Alex Albon is coming back into the pits quite slowly for Williams. So Stroll there is up to 6th place. And I'll just quickly get those laps, not the laps, the gaps correct for you guys. So Stroll, I think, is 1.3 seconds off the pace there in the Aston Martin. And then you've got, of course, Perez, Russell, and then Carlos Sainz. And then Lando Norris, completing your top 10. And then Lewis Hamilton in P11, who had a decent time, I think, in the morning session. In P11, I'll update the rest of the times momentarily, as Ocon is in 12th, as didn't quite see what the issue there was for Albon. I was just looking away then. Yeah, there you go. I think those are the correct gaps now on the screen. By the way, talking of the Mercedes side pod, when it comes to upgrades, you can see right there the side pod. You can see the wing sticking out as well at the front of it, as Ferrari have got their high-vis paint on their car, seeking to understand their car better. As Carlos Sainz is on the C2 compound, it looks as though he's pushing quite hard. That car looks a lot more lively now, sparking away quite a bit. He's done 2 improved sectors. He's only a second down on Charles Leclerc at the moment. This will probably put him around 6th, 7th, maybe 5th place at best, I would say. Depends the run he has through the final corner, as he now comes to the line, and he, goes up to 6th place on a 1:35.8 exactly. Does Carlos Sainz. So he is up into 6th place and is 1.2 seconds off the pace, pushing Stroll and Perez and Russell down the order. There you go. That is your top 10. And there's a replay of Russell locking up, I think, yet again at turn 10 and going wide. To be honest, though, when I think back to Mercedes at this track, I think they've always struggled in that corner. I remember last year they struggled at turn 10. Of course, they're different cars, completely different cars, but this isn't the greatest track in the world for Mercedes, the Bahrain International Circuit. I mean, they did dominate, I think, in the first 3 years of the hybrid era, but after that, in 2017, 18, 19 especially, they did not have the best time of it, where they lost, I think, 2 races there to Ferrari, should have lost 3 in a row, had it not been for Leclerc suffering a loss of power in 2019. And then last year, Red Bull were clearly quicker, but they still won through the brilliance of James Vowles on the team, on the pit wall, and of course Lewis Hamilton himself, as Lando Norris is now coming through to the middle sector point, and he's only 9 or pretty much a second off Charles Leclerc's best time so far. So this will be an improvement from Lando Norris, and he is on the C2 compound, so this is actually a pretty decent time to be setting, considering that Norris has not done anywhere near the amount of laps that I think McLaren would have been hoping for today, as he goes P8, 1.4 seconds off the pace. Just give that a quick update. So he is now with Perez and Russell. He is now 1.4 seconds off the pace of Charles Leclerc, who set his time, of course, in the morning. But considering he's on the C2, and again, not that many laps done today, pretty decent lap then. It looked pretty decent as well on board. And they're just showing a double screen on the Sky F1 broadcast, and you got was it Rachel Brooks and Anthony Davidson watching trackside. It's actually quite windy, quite a bit windier than I certainly would have expected, especially at the part of the track that they are actually at. In terms of laps completed, by the way, Lando Norris has he's done less than 40. He's done 38 laps. Shows you again, they have not completed that many laps today. Albon's done 104, Bottas 41, Gasly 62. Ferrari altogether have done pretty much, in about 4 or 5 laps time, they would have done 100. Perez has done 130, I think. Mercedes have done, I think 100 now. I think they've done exactly 100. So, for the top teams, except for McLaren, reliability looks to be pretty good right now. And then with the midfield teams, I mean, Haas, of course, they've had their troubles, so we won't go too much into them. Alpine, though, again, lack of running and lack of reliability, I think, for Alpine still. Ocon, of course, ran in the morning and he did 42 laps. Alonso has only done 13 in the afternoon session so far. So altogether, that's 55 laps. Not great considering the troubles they had in Barcelona where they couldn't open the DRS, and of course Alonso had that quite big issue on the final day of the shakedown. So yeah, Alpine not looking great on that front. Hard to say really with Alpine where they are pace-wise. I think they brought a lot of upgrades to this test, or the car we saw in Barcelona was certainly not the finished product. So again, with the pace of that car, it's hard to say where they are, as Carlos Sainz is porpoising down the pit straight a bit, but not as much as what we saw with Mercedes earlier. But yeah, with Alpine, not great at the moment. I think if you're going to look at the midfield, I think you'd probably have to say Alpine are really not looking in great shape. Mika in the chat asks, Chaz, what do you think about the divergence in side pod solutions? Do you see Red Bull, Merc and Ferrari converging later on? Or will each pursue their own development path with their side pod design? I think what's going to happen at this point in the season, because they don't know which one actually works, I think what you'll see for the first 4 or 5 races is them continue down the path they have chosen for their side pod designs. And then when we get to, April, late April, I think, as Lando Norris goes straight on at turn 1, by the way, I think they'll probably know by then, pretty much all the teams, what side pod design works best. And then I think you could see the teams move more in the direction of whatever side pod design works the best, whether it be the Mercedes one, the Ferrari one, whatever one. So I think for the first 3, 4, maybe 5 races, I think you'll see them just continue on with what they have come up with. And then if there is any other design out there that, that they haven't got that is really working, then I think you could see then some of the teams pursuing a different path. Mika also says, it seems likely to me that Merc will be super fast on straights, but are unlikely to be able to produce the peak downforce levels of Ferrari with this design. I mean, the reason Mercedes have gone for that non-side pod, I guess you could say, design, it's to eliminate at best the drag that comes with the car, or the cars in general. So they down the straights they will be very, very quick, but will it pay them back? Will the rest of the car, I guess you could say, pay them back in the corners? Because at the end of the day, I mean, it is important to be quick down the straights, but at the end of the day, if you don't also have a car that is nice and nimble and quick, maybe not the quickest, but quick to a certain extent through the corners, then you're not really going to be competing at the very sharp end of the grid. I mean, we've seen in the last few years, Williams, for example, in 2014, 2015 era, where their car was really just optimized for straight line speed, and they didn't really have any other quality other than that. And because they didn't really have any other quality, or the car, aerodynamically speaking, wasn't really anywhere near as good as their quality of the straight line speed, which I think it was down, of course, to the power unit, but it was also down to the way they set the car up, or designed the car in general. They weren't really able to really compete at the very front. So we'll see whether the rest of the car fundamentally, downforce-wise, will be good enough for Mercedes to really compete. I mean, I think Mercedes will be in some way, shape, or form a front-running team this season. I just don't know whether it'll be quickest, second quickest, third quickest. I don't really know at the moment. As Lando Norris actually went off twice, I think, on that lap, and he is now back into the pits. And the McLaren, not had a good day. Reliability issues on the brakes seem to be fixed, but didn't look great on track just then. As now we're looking at Valtteri Bottas in the Alfa Romeo. By the way, I've got to say the Alfa Romeo, in especially this nighttime, of course, look, now that the sun's gone down, the Alfa Romeo livery really does look nice. And hopefully it's a bit better than it has been in the last few years as he continues on his way. On the, what tyre is he on? The C2. The only cars we've got on track right now is Bottas in the Alfa Romeo, Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari, and George Russell in the Mercedes. Of course, in my review of day one, I will get into all of the times and also mention, what tyre all of the times were done on, which will give us probably the best indication as to who did good lap times today. And I'll do all of that later on at 7 p.m. UK time, which is in about 4 hours from now. So again, make sure to come along to that later on to hear, I guess, the recap of all of what has happened today, including the, I guess you could say, row over what is happening with the Mercedes side pods. Bottas continues through the middle sector point. And the Alfa Romeo, when you look at it on board, it looks decent. But I don't see anything at the moment that looks spectacular or, noteworthily good at the moment. Bit of oversteer on the exit of the final corner there. But he continues on his way, does Valtteri Bottas. But I think with Alfa Romeo and also the Haas team, I mean, to me, they were the two slowest teams in Barcelona, given what we've seen. Or what we saw, sorry. I mean, I know Haas and Alfa Romeo didn't do that much running, so they couldn't really push the car as much as they wanted to, but they didn't really look any quicker than, the last two places on the grid. I'm hoping here we'll see them be kind of in that fight with, Williams and maybe Alpine and Aston Martin and that, because it would be great if we didn't have anyone as a clear back marker like we had last season, of course, with Haas F1, or like we had in 2019 with Williams. It would be great if we had something like what we had in 2020, where in 2020 there wasn't a firm back marker team. You had three teams fighting at, say, the lower midfield point, which were Williams, Alfa Romeo and Haas, and then the midfield, and then the front runners. The front runners, I mean, you had Mercedes and then sometimes Red Bull, but it was really just Mercedes as the front runner that season. As Lance Stroll is on track now on an outlap, as Carlos Sainz continues with the high-vis paint on his car in the Ferrari. And continues his run down to the final corner. We'll see how it handles the final corner. And front end goes in nicely. Well, I say that, but maybe that's because of the wind, though. It did go his car quite a bit wide on the exit of the final corner, even though it hooked up with the apex nice enough, did the Ferrari. As we've got, about an hour left of day one. And yeah, they're just showing on screen right now what tyres were used for each time. So Charles Leclerc, he did his best time on a C3 compound. Alex Albon did his best on a C4. Bottas, Gasly, Vettel, I think, did their best on a C3. Carlos Sainz did his best on a C2. If in case you guys wanted to know that. As Lance Stroll, thankfully, to give us a better indication of where Aston Martin are, has come out on the C4 compound of tyre. We've only seen the C4 in terms of a lap time being set on it. We've only seen it once today, which of course was Alex Albon earlier today. And that's why Albon is in second position. As Stroll has started his lap. And he's now coming down to turn 1. Through turn 1 now. Looks okay enough. Looks actually pretty good through turn 2 and turn 3. And opens a DRS yet again. And into turn 4. And doesn't go too wide from what I could see through turn 4. Don't know what the sector time was for the first sector. As he now heads down to the turn, I think 8 hairpin. And he did an improved first sector, did Lance Stroll. Now into turn 9 and turn 10. And thankfully doesn't go wide. Didn't exactly hit the apex bang on, but was pretty good still. He now heads into turn 11. Very important not to run too wide at turn 11. And thankfully has not done. Looks pretty good through turn 11 and turn 12. And only 0.4 of a second down after the first 2 sectors. So he'll probably go at least third with this lap, will Lance Stroll. Maybe second. We'll see what Lance can do. Comes into the final corner now, bumping away into the entry of the final corner. Gets through the final corner nice enough. Comes to the line and goes third, about 0.7 of a second, or just under 0.7 of a second behind Charles Leclerc's best time. So there you go, Lance Stroll up to third. And he officially was 0.688 of a second behind was Lance Stroll. To be honest, though, considering Albon did his time on a C4, and I would say the track's in a better condition now than it was when Albon did his time earlier, that's not looking great for Aston Martin compared to Williams. Looks even better for Williams, but for Aston Martin, doesn't look that great. And let me just update the rest of the gaps. Vettel 1.1 down. And Carlos Sainz 1.2 down. And then the rest is as it is. But yeah, Stroll up to third. And like I said, considering the Williams did their time, best time on a C4 in probably worse track conditions. Not only because it was so much hotter, but also because now the track is a lot more rubbered in. That's not a great time from Lance Stroll, if I'm being honest. As Now we are looking at Alpha and AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly on the C3 compound of tyre. By the way, sorry for clearing my throat a lot, but you guys know the issues I have with my throat when it comes to commentating, considering how long I've been doing it for. No wonder that it's been, I guess you could say, so damaged, given the amount I go off screaming, as we heard, of course, at the final race of last season. But it'd be interesting to see with Gasly and AlphaTauri how they look when they start to push a bit harder, or say push as hard as like Stroll did then, because you remember this time last year, AlphaTauri looked as though they had probably the third best car on the grid. Didn't really translate into that in the first Grand Prix, which of course was held at the same track a week later, but they looked really good in testing last year. They've looked, I would say, good, not very good, but just good in testing so far. But is it going to be interesting to see if they can be as quick as they were in testing last year. As Gasly, I think, begins a lap. He's now coming through turn 1 and 2. Car looks pretty much fine. No real balance issues so far. It's Alex Albon, I think, just taking off his crash helmet in the Williams. The AlphaTauri front end very nicely goes into turn 4, but gets a bit of oversteer on the exit as he was trying to push it a bit harder. Car looks pretty good through that chicane of turn 5 and 6. Or 6 and 7, sorry. Turn 8 went pretty fine. Now into turn 9 and turn 10. Will he lock up? Nope. Car is absolutely bang on the apex, and this car, so far on this lap, looks pretty good. As he passes a slow car on the left-hand side, don't know who that was. Again, front end looks really nice on this AlphaTauri. It's not really understeering at all. And now into the penultimate corner. Car looks very good through there. And now the run down to the final corner. Turn 14. And doesn't go wide. Again, front end hooking up very, very nicely. And Gasly goes up to second place. That is a good lap time from Pierre Gasly. And to be honest, when you look at looked at that lap on board, that car looked good. I know people may say, "Oh, it's early" and all that, but that car looked good on board. It was really nailed to the track, especially in the middle sector. And he's done it on a one step harder compound compared to the Williams and Aston Martin, about 3 or 4 tenths behind. So, good time there for Gasly. Very good time. And he's only, I think, just over a quarter of a second slower than Charles Leclerc with that particular lap time. So, good time again from Gasly, and he is up now to P2. And I think is continuing to push to a certain extent, not massively. And they've just shown a replay of him, I think, porpoising down the straight, him bouncing up and down. And yeah, car bouncing, but still pretty quick, as I said. And that will be a good time, which I think will get the AlphaTauri team get the spirit going. Because, like I said, that is a pretty decent time at the very least for them compared to Albon and Stroll, when really there should be a half a second. And here's a replay of Stroll locking his inside front into turn 10, going horribly wide. But really, there should be like a half a second difference between the C4 and C3. So to go, say, 3 or 4 tenths of a second quicker than the Williams and Aston Martin, that shows, again, that on a similar-ish fuel load, which they will be on, they won't be on the exact same, of course, but the fuel loads will be similar. That is a good lap time and a good, I think, difference in performance there. But we'll see what Lance Stroll can do about that, because he is now on another lap and he's currently going through turn 10, or not turn 10, turn 8, the hairpin, now heading into turn 9 and turn 10, and he is on, of course, the C4. Compound goes really quite wide again. The Aston Martin just isn't handling well through that corner. Nowhere near as well as the AlphaTauri. And into turn 11. Looks okay. And we'll see, or maybe we won't see, what his middle sector time is looking like compared to the Gasman. As Stroll now heads down to the final corner, now that we are in now pitch black darkness in the sky, but not on the track. As Stroll rounds the final corner and decides to come back into the pits. Those tyres, considering they are pretty soft, they are probably past their best now, so maybe he wasn't going to go any quicker than he had previously. As he now comes in to his pit box for a pit stop onto the C3 tyre, but he is going to be instead wheeled back in to the garage. I'm just going to quickly mute my microphone just to clear my throat. Yeah, Stroll going back into the garage. Pierre Gasly's back out on track on an outlap. Let's see whether he'll go for another run. Carlos Sainz also on an outlap for the Ferrari team. We're now looking at George Russell, who looks as though he's on a flying lap on the C3 compound. Not seeing any sector times at the moment, but definitely looks as though he's pushing as he comes into turn 8. And now swings on in to turn 9 and 10 and does pretty well through that corner. Car looked actually pretty good through that corner compared to how it looked a few minutes ago. And front end not really hooking up through turn 11, but gets away with it. And did not improve his first sector, Russell, but we'll see what his middle sector is like. It is an improvement on his best middle sector, but he is 9 tenths of a second down on Leclerc so far on this lap. As Russell hooks up nicely to the apex of the final corner and now heads down the pit straight and goes out to 8th place, 1.4 seconds down on Leclerc. So, yeah, Russell up to P8 as Carlos Sainz is on an improved time. I'll have a look in a moment what his sector times are like. He's only 2 tenths down on Charles Leclerc and is on the same tyre that Leclerc was on earlier. So this is a pretty good lap for Carlos Sainz. As now through the final corner, opens the DRS and Carlos Sainz goes second with a purple final sector on a 1:34.7, almost 2 tenths of a second down on his teammate. Further illustrating, Ferrari have got some decent pace. There you go. And yeah, he's 0.182 of a second behind. Gasly just over 1/4 of a second. Then you've got Albon, of course, about 1/2 a second behind. Stroll about 7/10 of a second. And then you've got Valtteri Bottas, who is 9/10 or 9.5 down on Charles Leclerc. Bottas, by the way, is on an outlap as Carlos Sainz is now just doing a bit of a warm down, I guess you could call it. It's now Gasly back out on track on a set of C4 tyres. And he has done a purple first sector and a personal best middle sector. This might be the quickest time of the test so far. Comes to the line, and it is. He goes half a second quicker than Charles Leclerc. Great time there for Gasly, a 1:34.0. And the car, again, looked pretty good at the hands of the Frenchman. So, let me just update that. So you've got Gasly now in first place on a 1:34.010. And then Charles Leclerc now half a second behind. Again, I'm sure other teams can push harder, but these are some good times we are seeing from Gasly, I think, at the moment. Given the tyre he's on and all of that. Let me just update the rest of the times here. So, Albon now a second down. And then you've got Stroll about 1.2 seconds down. They're just showing a replay now of the porpoising from earlier. Nib just saying in chat, Red Bull have a radiator leak, or leak in the area of the radiator. Okay. As Sky F1 do their annoying double screen, which I really wish they just wouldn't. Because, like I said, it is annoying. But let me just try and update the rest of the times. Yeah, Gasly quickest on a 1:34.0. And Bottas is 9/10 down, I believe. Oh no, he's 1.4 seconds down. What I'm on about. There you go, 1.4. And then Vettel, 1.7 seconds, pretty much. Now down. Do the rest quickly before any more quick times are set. Yeah, let me quickly do this for you guys. Hopefully, won't be much more to do. So a lot of people now are about 2 seconds away on the lap times, away from Gasly. Ocon 2.7. We haven't seen, I was going to say we haven't seen much of Guan Yu Zhou, but then I remembered, but Valtteri Bottas won in the car. Fittipaldi looks as though he's doing some quicker times, Fittipaldi, which is good to see, as Fernando Alonso continues to, well, do nothing, not of his own fault. But, yeah, that's just the way it is. But there you go. All the gaps are now sorted on the screen from what I can see. Yeah, Gasly, fastest by half a second. Carlos Sainz, 7/10 down. Albon, a second down. Then Stroll, Bottas, Vettel, Russell, Norris, and Perez. Complete your top 10. As we're looking at Russell now in the Mercedes on the C3 compound still. And I think he's just doing a bit of a... I don't think a race run is the best way of saying it, but, you know, got a few laps of fuel on board, I think. as we're about, 45 minutes away from the conclusion of day 1. Again, like I said at the start of this stream, I will be live later tonight, guys, at 7 p.m. UK time to review all of the events of day 1 and go over the lap times and, all the tyres and what the times are set on, how everyone did. Also, the Mercedes side pods, the controversy around that. We'll go over all of that tonight at 7 p.m. UK time. So make sure to join me for that. And remember, I will be live tomorrow at 2 p.m. UK time again for the final 2 hours of day 2, and then live again to review day 2 at 7 p.m. UK time tomorrow night / Friday night. So don't forget to subscribe if you are new to the channel for more content like this. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there. And also make sure to smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. And as well, make sure to follow me on Twitter at ChazHD5 for updates in regards to my content. And it's also a great place to see, of course, when I'm going live and all of that. As on screen, we're looking at Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari on the C3 compound. Don't know if he's on a quick lap. No, he's not on a quick lap because he's not got the DRS open in between turn 10 and 11. So he's just on a kind of the same as Russell. He's probably just got a few laps of fuel on board. Has Gasly, or has Carlos Sainz, sorry. As Fernando Alonso is on an out lap. Good to see. Hopefully he can get a few more laps in before the end of the day. As Sainz goes a tad wide at the final corner on his lap, but continues on. Gasly has come out again on another set of tyres, but I think he's also probably on a race run of sorts after that little spurt of pace that he showed. Got Lando Norris now on an out lap. And, oh no, Gasly looks as though he is on another, is he on another timed run? Proper run here. He's on the C4 compound, but I don't know if he's pushing as hard as possible. Nope, he is. DRS wide open in between turn 10 and 11. So let's see what Gasly can do. Can he go any quicker than he went before? As he comes through turn 11 and turn 12. Cars look absolutely spectacular through there. And he's very close to his personal best lap time. He's less than a tenth of a second away from going quicker. We'll see whether he can get any more time out of this final corner to go even quicker in P1. Around the final corner now. And looks just as good, if not a tad better than last time. Comes to the line, Gasly. And he does a purple final sector, but does not go any quicker. He was about half a tenth of a second slower than his personal best time. But good to see that the pace is there on the second lap as well. On the same compound, even though it's a different set of tyres. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Gasly, pretty good running, I would say, today. As he now cools down. I was going to say before we got onto that lap, Lando Norris is on an out lap as well. Lance Stroll is also on an out lap, so maybe we'll see some quick times from them. As we're now looking at Fernando Alonso, who it looks as though he is on a timed run on the C2 / hard compound tyre. He's currently after 2 sectors, 2.3 seconds down. And we'll see what he can do for Alpine here. He'll probably only go up to like 12th or 13th place. It's not going to be anything dramatic. Rounds the final corner. And no, he doesn't even, I think, complete that lap. He comes back into the pits. Yeah, not great for Alpine. I think that was just a test maybe to see if the car was working at, proper speed. But yeah, like I said, not great days at the moment for the Alpine team. And I think going into the first race, because they're not doing the running that they need to be doing, I think you're going to see a similar situation to what we saw with Aston Martin last year, where, if you remember, Aston Martin did not do a lot of running in testing last year in Bahrain, hampered them quite a bit in Bahrain. I think they still scored points with Stroll. I think they finished, was it Stroll finishing 10th place, I think, for that race? So, still a decent result, but if you compare that to how they were pace-wise a few races later, they were pretty bad in Bahrain compared to how they would do later on. So as Norris goes wide again at turn 10, yeah, like I said, I think we might see a similar situation with Alpine where they might not do too bad in a week's time, but because of this lack of running, they might not fully unlock the car's potential until the Spanish Monaco Grand Prix. We'll have to see. But yeah, not looking great at the moment. As I'm just showing slow-mo of Gasly going through turn 12. Again, like I said, great to look at the cars going through that corner. And here is a big lockup on the outside front for Pietro Fittipaldi, who is in 14th place still. As Lando Norris, I think, now is on another attempt and a better timed run. He is on the C2 compound, so it'll be interesting to see how he does. He clearly went quite a bit wide on the exit of that corner, so don't know if he'll be allowed to keep this time or not, but we'll see. Comes into turn 8. I think he hit the apex a bit too well at turn 8. Car a bit pointy. And now into turn 10. A lot better than last time, of course, even though he was bumping quite a bit into the entry of that corner. Now to turn 11. And Norris, no real big issues. And we'll see how he does in these final couple real corners. Turn 13 looks fine. And now, of course, only one corner to go. I don't know what his sector times look like at the moment. One thing I do know is that Lance Stroll has improved his time and is now in 4th position. I'll update that in just a moment. Just want to see what Norris does. Norris comes to the line and doesn't go any quicker. But yeah, Lance Stroll is now up to 4th place on, I think, the C4 compound. Was Stroll on that occasion, and he's only now 0.7 of a second behind Gasly. So there you go. And then Albon, the second down. And yeah, just showing a replay there of Norris on the exit of turn 4 going way wide, and I don't think it would have been allowed to keep his time in normal circumstances. As they show again, another cool shot of the cars through turn 12. As let's now see who's next up. This is now Pietro Fittipaldi. DRS wide open, heading down to turn 1. This looks as though, as he locks the outside front, and yeah, this lap's basically blown because he's gone so wide. But I was going to say, it would have been interesting to see what the Haas car was really like on a lower fuel run, but we're not going to see. Will he continue on anyway? I don't think so. Fittipaldi, I think it's just going to maybe have a bit of a cool down before he goes for another possible improved lap time, as we're just over half an hour away from the end of the day. As I saw, he passed Gasly on this lap, did Fittipaldi, and Gasly is on another outlap. Hopefully, he's on another set of C4 tyres, so we can see another improvement of lap time. But yeah, with this Haas car, it's hard to say right now where they are. I still feel as though they are at the back, but I don't know if they're the slowest team or the second slowest. I don't know, because they just really haven't done the running. You know, we can't really get a good enough gauge on where they are. But he is now doing more and more laps, which is good. And continues on, does Pietro. As Carlos Sainz is back in the pits. Only 3 cars on track now. Gasly, Russell and Fittipaldi. Hopefully we'll see in a moment Pierre Gasly attempt another quick lap. Here's a replay of Fittipaldi into turn 1 about 2 minutes ago. Again, locks the outside front, and then the rear end tries to step away from him, controls it well enough, but blows the lap. And continues to fight on for another day. And here is Gasly. Pierre on the C5 tyres now. Here we go. No, I like this. AlphaTauri absolutely going for it. He has not done a improved first sector, but the first sector, I mean, it is important to a certain extent, but it's not as important as the second sector, which is very, very important. Let's see if he gets any more grip out of these tyres compared to the C4 through sector 2. Through turn 12 now. Let's see what his middle sector time is like. And he is slightly up on his personal best, a purple middle sector for Pierre. Will now pass a slower car, the Haas car, Fittipaldi, on the inside, coming down to the final corner. And Gasly runs a bit wide on the final corner. Will that cost him as he comes to the line? And it will. He goes a tenth of a second slower. If he hooks up a bit of a cleaner lap, though, I reckon he could go probably a tenth and a half quicker on that compound. We'll see if he goes for another run. Maybe he comes in and puts on another set of C5 tyres. But yeah, Gasly looking pretty quick, and AlphaTauri looking pretty quick on the softer tyres and lower fuel. As Perez, I think, in the Red Bull, who's been in the pits quite a while, I think he is about to come back out onto track, because they're now putting the front wing on. They'll soon put the tyres on, and hopefully we'll see Perez for the final half an hour possibly attempt a lower fuel quick run. Gasly. We'll see if Pierre decides that there's another lap left in those tyres. And here's a replay of him at the final corner, and needed a couple bites of steering to get into the corner, and then collected some oversteer, which forced him a bit wide. And yeah, again, if it was a cleaner lap, I reckon Gasly goes a tenth and a half, maybe 2 tenths at most quicker than he previously would have done. Now comes into the final corner. Will he go for another lap, or will he come back into the pits? I think he will come back into the pits. Yes, he will. Hopefully, though, he will put on another set of C5 tyres, or maybe C4 tyres. Go for an even quicker lap time. As Gasly comes in, and they start to call the car, and I think they're going to wheel it back in to the pits. So we'll see if we see him again. for a quick run. Hopefully, Perez is about to come out on circuit. The tyre blankets are on. The tyres, of course, are on. We're now looking at Fernando Alonso, who looks as though he's on a quickish lap on the C3 compound. The Alpine moving around quite a bit, I have to say. I don't know if he's warming up his tyres. Oh, he is. He's on an outlap. So, yeah, that explains it. So, hopefully, we'll get a decent time from Alpine here. As Alonso rounds the final corner and will now do a timed run. As he heads down the pit straight. Doesn't really seem to be porpoising that much, does the Alpine? And into turn 1, looks okay enough. I don't know why, to me, the Alpine, from what I've seen of it so far, it just looks unstable at the rear end. We'll see if that, results in them being quicker or whatever, but it doesn't look particularly stable to me. As Alonso, only 0.4 of a second down on Gasly after the first sector. Now through turn 8. And yeah, the rear end to me on the Alpine looks very just all over the place. As Perez has come back out, I think, on a set of C2 compound tyres, as Alonso's car almost wouldn't dare go into turn 10 then. Needed a couple bites of steering to get in. And now Alonso into turn 11. And yeah, quite a bit of work going on at the steering wheel of the Alpine. And he is 2 seconds off after the first 2 sectors. So this will probably put him in 11th or 12th place if he continues this lap. And no, he's not going to. He's slowing down. As Pierre Gasly is back out on an outlap. We'll see what tyres he's on in a moment. And Alonso, thankfully, though, continues on track because Alpine do need the laps on the board, even though they're not going to get anywhere near, of course, 100 laps because they've only done, I think, 60. And there's only 28 minutes to go. And I don't think you can get 40 laps in that amount of time. Pretty sure you can't. Perez, we're now seeing on that hard compound tyre, D2. Hopefully we'll see a bit more competitive running from Red Bull. Probably not going to happen, but yeah. As Perez now through turn 10 and 11 builds up on this outlap to hopefully a proper fast lap. As soon as I know, by the way, what tyre Pierre Gasly is on for his next run, I'll let you guys know because we could possibly be getting another very quick time. As Perez looks as though he is going to now begin I don't think he really can now begin a quick lap because he went so horribly wide through the final corner. But yeah, at least he's back out on track. That's the main thing. As he does just under 300 kilometers an hour down the pit straight. And to be honest, I'd like to be seeing Pierre Gasly at the moment rather than Perez, who's not really going that quickly, as Lance Stroll is on an outlap. Ferrari are currently working on something around the side pod area on one of the sides of the car. So, not great for them to have that issue. And I think Gasly is on the C5. We're now on board with him. And yeah, he is. He's not done an improved first sector. Let's see what his middle sector time is like. He comes up to it, and he is 1/10 of a second up. A purple middle sector for Gasly. Hopefully, doesn't make a mistake as he comes into the final corner. And brakes hard now. And he gets through it. Yeah, very, very well. Now comes to the line with DRS wide open and goes even quicker. Does he? Yes, he does. A tenth of a second quicker on a 1:33.9. I don't know if maybe because of the way the Bahrain track is in, degrading the tyres, but it doesn't seem as though there's that much more time left in the C5. Maybe that's because they're giving up grip towards the end. But he is now even quicker on a 1:33.9. Of course, in the next couple of days of testing, hopefully we'll see the teams pushing a bit harder. But I think that is a good benchmark so far for Gasly and AlphaTauri. These times that they're doing. As what we're looking at here, Lance Stroll, right in the slipstream of the Alpine, swerving about. Don't quite know why he's doing that. Is he going to overtake Alonso? He is, and Alonso will let him go. Or are they going to have a bit of a race here? Alonso now coming back at him. Practicing, of course, for next weekend. A Stroll now going to go round the outside. He does. Are they literally practicing for next weekend? And Stroll gives a bit of a barge there. Does Stroll to Alonso. It honestly seemed as though they were practicing on purpose there to see what it was like to go wheel to wheel. Of course, these two did go wheel to wheel quite a bit in the Bahrain Grand Prix of last year. So maybe we'll see them that close next weekend. Right, I think I need to update the rest of the I need to update the rest of the lap times because, of course, Gasly has extended and Alonso there. I don't really know what these two are doing. I think they may be playing games with each other. I don't quite know, to be honest. But what I was going to say is I need to update the rest of the lap times. I need them on the FOM screen to update. Well, if they do come, Stroll and Alonso, into contact or into battle with each other next weekend, I'm sure Alonso will remember that. But let me just update the rest of this, or rest of the lap times, if I can. Again, FOM has not updated the rest of the times in terms of the gap to Gasly, so I'm going to have to try and kind of guess, which is not great, to be honest. So bear with me. I think Leclerc is 6 tenths down, and now Carlos Sainz is 8 tenths down on Gasly. And then you've got Stroll, who is 8 tenths down as well. And then Albon is 1.168 down. As looking at a decent helmet cam there of Lando Norris. And yeah, I'm just going to try and update it the best I can because FOM, I think their timing screen is a bit, it's a bit muddled up at the moment. So Vettel 1.8 down at the moment, and then Russell is 2.039, I think, down. As Alonso, by the way, goes up to 12th place, and now they have thankfully updated it, so now I don't have to guess. I think I guessed pretty well though what the times were, but Lando Norris is actually about to go quicker. So let me just see. He's in 9th place right now. Let me just see what time He does. He comes to the line now. Lando Norris on the C2 goes 6th, 1.4 seconds down. I'll get into that in a moment in terms of whether that's a good time or not. But let me just update that he is now up to 6th place. And also, you've got Fernando Alonso up to 12th. So, yeah, let me now update those lap times for you. So, Norris, 1.4 seconds down. And then you've got Bottas just behind 1.5 seconds down. We've not seen that much of Valtteri Bottas on the screen. I think he's been out on track quite a bit. I just don't think we've seen quite that much of him, unfortunately, because he was looking decent earlier with his times he was doing and all of that. As we're just now looking at Perez, who is following, or was following, I think, Valtteri Bottas then, in the Alfa Romeo. Yeah, Perez at the moment is 2 full seconds down on Gasly's best time. And let me just update the rest. 2 points. So Alonso 2.8 down. And then Ocon also his time 2.8 down. Then Guan Yu Zhou and Fittipaldi. Let me just do that quickly. There you go. All the times now, lap time, the differences between the cars is all now correct. And yeah, with Lando Norris, so 1.5 seconds down on Gasly, and Gasly did his time on the C5. Norris did his time on the C2. So I'd say if Norris, say, on the same fuel load, did a time on the C5, Norris probably does go quicker, but I'm not sure he goes that much quicker, maybe 2 or 3 tenths. So I still think AlphaTauri have done a pretty good lap time there on the C5. So, yeah, I think Norris, he goes quickest on the C5 if he, did that. Or did that, time on the C5 with that fuel load. But I think Gasly, still, his lap times, not just the C5 compound one he did, but the ones before on the C4 and even the C3, Gasly's times have been pretty impressive. And I think coming out of day one, you have to say Ferrari are looking very, very good at the moment. But AlphaTauri, given what we've seen in the last hour or so, I think have shown that they have quite a good car. It's, again, hard to say where they are. They might still be just a midfield team, but they look still pretty good to me, to AlphaTauri, because I don't think they're running, the skinniest fuel, and they're running massively high engine modes or anything like that. So I do think they have genuinely good pace from what they have shown today. And I have to say as well, Lando Norris, considering they've not done that many laps, McLaren, today, that's a pretty good time on the C2 compound to be only 1.5 seconds down on Gasly when he did his on the C5. So, yeah, pretty good job by Norris there. But hopefully, more running will be accomplished by the team tomorrow, and hopefully Daniel Ricciardo will be in the car tomorrow. Ricciardo was supposed to be in the car for the afternoon, but has fallen ill. Hopefully he's okay. I understand that he had a medical checkup at the hotel, so I'm sure he will be okay. Hopefully, though, he can get in the car for tomorrow. And we do know, of course, that Verstappen, Tsunoda, and Latifi will definitely be in the cars tomorrow. Probably Mick Schumacher as well. And then, Daniel Ricciardo, as long as he's well, then he should be as well. Rooksfoot just saying in chat that pole time last year was a 1:28.9 from Max Verstappen, and that was on the C4 compound, I think it was. So we're what, 1:33.9, so 5 seconds off the pace. I mean, I think the cars are still slower than last year's cars, but I still think everyone has quite a bit still to show in terms of single lap pace, because I don't think the cars are that much slower, because like I said, in Barcelona they were only like a second and a half away from the best times from 2021, so they're definitely quicker than they've shown so far. As now we're seeing Fittipaldi on the prototype C2 compound. He's done an improved first sector. He's locked up his inside front, but he makes the corner. Nice bit of cadence braking by Pietro. Hopefully can improve quite a bit on this time. Or the previous time, rather, that he did, as Pierre Gasly comes back into the pits. Carlos Sainz has come back out on track. Maybe Ferrari want to make sure that they come away with the quickest time of the day for all the headlines and all of that. As Fittipaldi continues to improve on his personal best. Will he go any quicker than will his position rather improve from what we've seen? Paper bag there, which he's run over. Comes to the line and doesn't go any higher in terms of his position, but his lap time does improve quite a bit by about 1.1 seconds. So now he is only 3.5 seconds off the pace. So there you go. Hopefully, by the way, that paper bag doesn't cause anything bad aerodynamically. You'll probably have to come back in the pits to get it removed. As we're just seeing further replays of him locking up at turn 10. I'd imagine when it comes to Haas and, Kevin Magnussen and what he possibly what his plan is for testing, if Mick Schumacher's in the car tomorrow, maybe Kevin Magnussen will be in the car Saturday. As Carlos Sainz, by the way, is now on a new timed run, as Pierre Gasly is back out on an outlap. Carlos on the C3 compound. We'll see if Carlos can go any quicker. He has done an improved first sector. He's only 0.06 of a second down on the AlphaTauri. Looks pretty good through turn 8. Russell also, it looks as though, is on a timed run. Sainz locks up the inside front through turn 10, goes slightly wide, but still okay. Now into turn 11. And Sainz looks okay. Let's see what his middle sector time looks like. And he is only 0.3 of a second down. Considering that Carlos is on a 2 compound harder tyre, if he can get within half a second, or within, 3 or 4 tenths, then this will be, I think, quite an impressive lap time from the Ferrari. As it will run slightly wide at the final corner, but it's still pretty good. Comes to the line, and Carlos Sainz goes second. 4.5 tenths down. Did not do a personal best final sector, so he can go quicker. But really, considering he's on 2 compound harder tyres, that is a very impressive lap time. It really, really is. And again, illustrates that Ferrari do fundamentally, so far, have a quick car for 2022. So there you go. Carlos Sainz now up to second. And only 4.5 tenths off Gasly, who is on a lap, I think. So we'll see if Gasly can improve even more in the AlphaTauri. But yeah, good time from Carlos Sainz, and again showing the Ferrari definitely is a good car for this year. As he just locks up there on the replay. And yeah, really, in the final sector, the reason he didn't do a personal best because he went a tad bit wide, straddled the curb a bit, and that would have cost it. Would have cost him probably about 1/10 of a second. So yeah, good overall effort from him. Russell now on a new run. Oh, he locks up massively at turn 10. Big lockup on the C3 compound. Goes wide off the track. Thankfully not in the barriers or anything like that. But he does get away with it. But that lap is now blown. And yep, he now backs off. He's had that a lot today, has Russell. A lot of locking up at turn 10 as they now throw out the virtual safety car. The reason they do this is to make sure that the virtual safety car warning systems are working, and the drivers, they can see the warnings on their dashboard and all of that. Hopefully, in about 2 or 3 minutes, it'll go away. But yeah, Russell has locked up a lot at turn 10. I mean, it is a pretty tough corner. It's one of those corners that you either get absolutely bang on or you don't at all. It's not a corner that you can really test out different lines or anything like that. You have to be absolutely online, and again, you either get it bang on or you're off the track or, quite a bit wide and end up locking up. I mean, we see so many lockups at that corner. It's ridiculous. Yeah, not great. Through that corner is the Mercedes. And yeah, just snatching the left front yet again for about the 3rd or 4th time today. So we've got, 8.5 minutes to go. Hopefully this virtual safety car will finish. Hopefully it finishes, especially from the point of view of Pierre Gasly, who is on another set of C5 tyres, as Sergio Perez has somehow spun. Oh, how stupid are you, Sergio Perez? I'm sorry to say, I really like the guy, but how incredibly stupid is he? And now it's a red flag. He has spun and got stuck in the gravel on the exit of turn 8 under a virtual safety car. That is an incredibly embarrassing moment. And yeah, Red Bull, they've not had a great day, really. Reliability's not been great. They've not done as many laps. Well, they've done a lot of laps, but they've not done as many as they could have done today. And then that happens. That is again, highly embarrassing moment for Sergio Perez. That has to be one of the worst driver mistakes I've seen in a while, to spin under a virtual safety car like that. I mean, I know why it's happened. He's obviously on cold tyres, just accelerated a bit too much out of the corner and then spun. But it's just such a, for him, it shouldn't be happening. And yeah, here you go. Cold tyres. And then he backs it up, probably forgetting there's a gravel trap there. Then tries to get going, but the rear tyres are planted. That is an amateur mistake from Perez, and pretty much ends, I think, the day of testing, unless they can get that car cleared away in the next, say, 3 minutes or so. But I don't think they're going to be able to, as Perez now getting out of his car. That's, I think, the first stopped car out on track today. We had a red flag earlier because Lance Stroll had some parts of his car detach itself. I think that was at the start of the afternoon session. So it would have been about 3 hours ago. Yeah, this is the first proper car stoppage I think we've seen on track, and it is for a very, very silly reason. I'll just wait a couple more minutes to see whether we could get some running. But if I was to guess, I'd probably say no. But it looks as though Pierre Gasly is going to end up the quickest man of day one. And you have to say, again, even though not everyone is doing low fuel running just as of yet, you have to say the lap times he's done so far in this second test have been pretty good. And the AlphaTauri looks pretty good. We'll see tomorrow whether Yuki Tsunoda will, further confirm this in his effort tomorrow. But AlphaTauri do look pretty good, which is good to see, because I was a bit worried coming into this season that they would drop off massively. But looks as though they've still got a pretty good fundamental car for the 2022 F1 season. And there's 5 minutes to go. Perez, I think, maybe just asking why the marshals wouldn't push him back onto the track. And yeah, I think that is pretty much the end of the day. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you for coming along to this watch along. Been great to have you. Make sure again to come along to the review of day one of testing later tonight, 7 p.m. UK time. Make sure to be there for that review. We'll go over obviously all of the teams and how they've done. Some of the most interesting lap times. Obviously, I'll go over, what tyres they were done on, so we get a better gauge of, who did what and how people did. And also get into the Mercedes side pod controversy. Great timing, of course, the Mercedes being on screen and the possible fury over that. But yeah, make sure to come along to that stream in about 3 hours' time to review the events of day one. And don't forget, again, I will be live tomorrow at 2 p.m. UK time for the final 2 hours of day two. So, guys, don't forget, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there. Don't forget as well to hit the notifications bell for this channel and smash the like button. Share this video and channel everywhere you can. As well, make sure to follow me on Twitter at ChazHD5. And don't forget as well to join my Discord server, link below in the description. Another great place. Keep up to date with, content on the channel. But guys, until my review of day one in 3 hours' time, it has been me, Chazzer HD. Goodbye.